The Great Debaters Contest is powered by Blaze, by Safaricom, the Youth Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another great episode of the Great Debaters Contest. I am your host, Austin Nyambok.
And I am Mariam Bishar. Welcome to the show. Today we are discussing whether developing countries should ensure they have internal manufacturing policies to achieve industrialization. We have two very formidable teams going up against each other. We'll leave the stage for these teams now. Poser number one, you have 3 minutes.
As the queen of the jungle, I shall not be subjected to eating grass, not even when there is famine. It's not pride, it's just who I am. To this, I am a strong protagonist of the motion that states developing countries should ensure internal manufacturing policies to achieve industrialization. Developing countries are countries with less industrialized systems and low base of industrialization. Internal means that which is connected with the inside of something. Manufacture is to create in large scale a particular commodity by use of machinery. A policy is a principle of action proposed by a government. Industrialization is the creation of industries in a country, but in a specific region by a country. By proposing this motion, I simply mean that I believe that these internal manufacturing policies are necessary so that developing countries can get to the standards of industrialization that they want to be. Life begets life. Energy creates energy. It is by spending on self that one is able to become rich. The government should set these internal manufacturing policies to encourage competitiveness and compatibility of the systems of the industries in order to get to the industrialization levels. Julius Nyerere once said, "You cannot develop people, you must allow them to develop themselves." Countries in the East Asian section and newly industrialized countries have brought these internal manufacturing systems into system, and they have been able to get industrialized. Why then shouldn't the other industrialized countries adopt these kind of policies? They should be able to put into action these policies because they have worked for other countries. The governments are able to put the best policies because they know the problems that a country is facing. The country is the one that the government is what knows the problems that a country is facing. Hence, they will get the best policies, the best and the most appropriate policies in order to get to the industrialization. A single idea and a single action is what it takes to move the world. To this, I believe that governments are well equipped and they can be able to bring their own countries into the level that they want to reach. I rest my case.
Nakuru School, you have 3 minutes for your opening statements.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, your perfection is your possession. Do you perfect what you possess? Well, developing countries should ensure internal manufacturing policies to achieve industrialization. Well, I strongly oppose to this point. Well, a developing country is a sovereign state with a less developed industrial base and a low HDI, the Human Development Index, relative to the other countries. An international manufacturing policy is a governmental measure aimed at improving the competitiveness and capabilities of domestic firms and promoting structural transformation. Well, to achieve is to succeed in implementing the policies. Well, do we agree that these developing countries should ensure these internal manufacturing policies? Well, I say no. For industrialization to thrive in a country, ladies and gentlemen, there must be heavy investments. What do we mean by this? Capital, my friends, capital. Well, most of the developing countries, e.g. Zimbabwe, China, Kenya, they lack capital. Well, According to Africa's needs to invest, 131 billion US dollars annually are used to bridge the industrialization gap. Well, there are multinational companies, Unilever. If you apply Blue Band on your bread, kindly raise your hand. Well, quite a number, thank you. Well, when you apply the Unilever Blue Band on your bread, do you know that the profits you add to the country are all repatriated? There is repatriation of profits. What do I mean by this? You will pay for the Blue Band, but all the capital and all the profits you're making will all be taken back to the countries. Well, Unilever has a branch in South Africa and in Egypt. You're making capital for them. Well, Kenya and Africa relies heavily on the FDI, the foreign direct investment. This leads them to lacking of capital. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we can't heavily rely on these. We can talk of the IMF, the industrial manufacturing policies, to achieve industrialization. Well, public debt. Well, China will be knocking our doors, debt. USA, debt. When will we listen to this debt? You all use the roads that China is developing. That is a policy. But where will you get the capital to implement the policy? Lack of raw materials. Well, there are 118 elements in the periodic table. Well, only 10% or even less, or slightly more of them that are in Kenya. Well, we can't make any industrialization and any goods without the raw materials. Well, we can't make materials fall from heaven like the way fire fell. Well, the reason for industrialization in countries is heavy natural resources. From hydrogen to oxygen, 90% are found in such developed countries such as USA. Well, when you go to the shop and your mother sends you bulbs, you say, give me 40 megawatts. Well, in Kenya, we call them megawatts. But in the developed countries, there are billions and millions of kilowatts. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you don't buy turnip trucks if you don't have turnips. I rest my case.
Boy Forces Academy will hear your rebuttal. You have 3 minutes.
Diversity. It is working independently as a team for distinguished ladies and industrialized men from the Reckoning Moi Forces Academy. I'm Lucy Masharia, a protagonist in the motion. Developing countries should ensure internal manufacturing policies to achieve industrializations. Well, to my opponents, you will stop get when you develop internal manufacturing policies. Now, ladies and gentlemen, my opponent from the Nakuru Girls High School said that we perfect what we possess. Yes, we perfect what you possess. As a developing country, you perfect what you possess. Developing countries have shown a positive index in development of infrastructure. And an example is India. According to sourcewatch.org, it says that the Nehru Mahabolish law, which states that India from the 1991 has been developing daily, constantly, and is improving. And according to the Newswatch, it says that in 2020, India will be termed as a developed country. Why? Because it has internal manufacturing policies. Now, the government of a country is the one that knows the problems that the people face. It is the government of an institution that knows what the merits and the demerits are. Now, and the people, the government will be able to deal with this, not including other nations. The China developed not because of employing external policies, but by watching. It is not a must to interact. You have to, you can sit, you can watch, you can learn, and you can ensure these policies yourselves. China, according to the man Ziegler, he said that China developed not from an agricultural economy, not by locking themselves and in a cocoon called solitude. No, they sat they watched and they decided to implement their own policies. Ladies, gentlemen, if I say I'm feeling bad right now, you do not see it because you do not know what is happening in me. But if you are part of me, you will know what is happening to me. The government of a country knows what happens to its countries. The government of a country is able to change. It is able to effect the manufacturing policies. It is able to create job opportunities. My audience, ladies and gentlemen, the clothes I'm wearing, they are a product of a developing nation, and I'm proud of them. And I think that this developing nation, it continues in development. There's someone who gets us a source of living only by manufacturing these garments that I put on. There's someone who has created, who has paid school fees for their children by this. But by saying that internal manufacturing policies should not be employed, this is a staircase to failure. Thank you.
Nakuru School will hear your rebuttal. You also have 3 minutes.
Well, my opponents, you talk about industrialization. You talk about a government knowing its own people. Touché. But what will the policies do to us? We have had policies in developing countries for more than we can remember. The years that the developing countries have been holding on to policies are so long that we can't even think about. Industrialization begins with industrial diagnosis and thorough evaluation of a country's industrial base. And by that I mean availability of labor force, availability of capital, access to raw materials, and most importantly, availability of technology. I am Doreen Juma from the Nakuru Girls High School, and I stand here strongly as an antagonist of the motion that says developing countries should ensure internal manufacturing policies to achieve industrialization. You have talked about giving us policies. You have talked about Julius Nyerere saying that, Mwalimu Julius Nyerere saying that you create energy from energy. Energy begets energy. But did you know about the Ujamaa, a policy created by Julius Nyerere? The policy forced people to engage in farming. Did you know that not everyone is always wanting the same thing? People want different things, which will bring profits to the economy of a country. We're talking about bringing in industrialization into our countries. Governments have been failing. This is not because they lack policies, but because they do not have the best policies. You're talking about best policies. Do you know that developing countries try to take policies from other developed countries so that they may develop their own countries? A good example is Tunisia and Mauritius. They got developing policies from the East Asia. And we can talk about that as an unqualified success. They had the policies. Ladies and gentlemen, even though a coat fits your neighbor well, it does not always fit you. Let's think about the future. Think about what the future holds for us. We are talking about policies. How are we going to effect the policies? The governments have been failing again. Most of the governments of developing countries lack the required information, the capability, the incentives to successfully determine whether the benefits of promoting certain policies will exceed the cost of implementing them. These policies that you're creating need to be implemented. There is no way you can state a plan of action without knowing how you're going to implement the state of action. Right now, we should be thinking about how to make our governments better, how to make industrialization take place in our developing countries, not setting up policies. So I'll tell you, don't concentrate on the policies. Concentrate on the issues that matter most. Thank you.
Thank you very much to the audience for posing questions. To the proposers, it's developing countries tend to have a lot of corruption issues. So would that not be an impediment to industrialization, even if they had proper manufacturing policies? And the opposition have been asked to prove that developing countries have had manufacturing policies for a while. We'll have them respond to those queries. Third proposer, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, to reach to the port, we must sail, sometimes with the wind and sometimes against it. But what we must not do is to drift or lie at the anchor. Halkano Buke from The Moi Forces Academy Lanet, proposing the motion, developing countries should ensure internal manufacturing policies to achieve industrialization. Now, the beautiful lady asked me, don't you think that developing countries have corrupt governments that will be a major hindrance to industrialization? Now, a change, ladies and gentlemen, they say is as good as rest. I do admit that most developing countries have bad governing systems, but then, are they meant to stay there? No. They can be eradicated. And how? Now, take for instance, I'll give a big up to the electoral systems of most developing countries. Why? Since they have, let's take for instance the IEBC. This board has taken the initiative to educate and inform the citizens on the importance of voting, and not only voting, but voting for leaders with integrity and with the vision of promoting industrialization and development at large. Then the EACC is the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission of Kenya, an institution, again, that has entrusted individuals with the task of questioning and later suspend and demote those leaders who are corrupt from their offices. Now, ladies and gentlemen, once in Kenya, we had Rivertex, a textile industry. Do you remember it? Okay, the Rivertex, they made products, and it is a Kenyan industry. And for most of us, let me take you if you have forgotten. It promoted innovation, creativity, and invention. Our young designers had the opportunity to exploit their talent. You would admire the teamwork that was there. I believe in togetherness. I believe in brotherhood, and I believe in unity as a vital source of strength. Let us take ourselves back to that time. To be yourself in the world that is constantly trying to make you something else, then that is the greatest accomplishment that we can have. Please, let us strive to go to that place. Thank you.
Opposition, you have 3 minutes to respond to the audience.
I hail from Nakuru Girls High School, and my name is Alwala Wendy, here to strongly oppose the motion that says developing countries should ensure internal manufacturing policies to achieve industrialization. But first, I have been asked to prove that developing countries have had internal manufacturing policies for a long time. And by for a long time, I mean since time immemorial. Tanzania had a policy in 1977, which is the Ujamaa policy, similar to the communist policy. Did it work? No, it didn't. Kenya, from 1980 to 1982, had an import substitution policy which failed miserably to take on. Nigeria has had internal manufacturing policies for their oil fields, and it has never, ever worked. I'll tell you why. My friend from Njoro Girls, thank you so much for your point. Corruption. My proposers, have said that corruption can be eradicated. But I say yes, they can be eradicated. And that should happen before we even start to think about internal manufacturing policies. We lose billions and billions and billions of money through corruption. I am talking about the NYS saga. I am talking about Goldenberg. I am talking about Anglo leasing. You want to tell me that your internal manufacturing policies are going to bring back all that money? No. We should ensure that there is no corruption before we can think about internal manufacturing policies. Nigeria is the leading producer, and I say producer, of oil in Africa, and the 13th globally. But because of corruption and mismanagement of their oil fields, Libya has taken the place at the top of the pyramid and have become Africa's leading exporter of oil. Did they have internal manufacturing in policies? Yes, they did. Did they help them? No, they didn't. My second point is that we have more pressing problems at hand before those internal manufacturing industries. Health is a key factor. We can't even treat our sick people. They go to hospitals and they are recommended to India. And you're talking about internal manufacturing industries. We don't have transport and communication, which, by the way, is very necessary when it comes to manufacturing. You will manufacture your things, but how will you transport them? How will you communicate? If Safaricom breaks down for one day and everyone is crying, we should ensure transport and communication before internal manufacturing policies. Education. Ladies and gentlemen, during the Industrial Revolution in Europe, we had many, many, many scientists. I'm talking about Gottlieb Daimler. I'm talking about James Watt. I'm talking about James Joule. Who is going to be the James Joule of Africa if we don't have education? Security is another key factor. We are so vulnerable to attacks from all sides. I'm talking about the Lanet Triangle, Al-Shabaab, the Uganda-Kenya border, Ethiopia, and you're talking about internal manufacturing policies. The very minute you open that manufacturing building of yours, Al-Shabaab is going to bomb it, and that is when you'll know that you should have ensured security before internal manufacturing policies. Thank you.
Okay, time for closing statements. Moi Forces, you have 1 minute.
Honestly, I'd not take a call to join your side. Why degrade developing countries? And yet, they have already started developing. Why degrade them? Here's the heart of a mother. If you're not willing to learn, then no one can help you. We take internal manufacturing policies as a motivation to stop corruption. By the way, these countries, they have developed, instead of looking at Nigeria, Kenya, do you know that the majority outweighs the minority? In East African Asia, in Sub-Saharan Africa, in the entire East African Asia, the countries have developed. India is about to be termed as a developed country. It has internal manufacturing policies. Ladies and gentlemen, let us be proud of the achievement that our young people are making in developing countries. Let us give them a chance to develop themselves. Let us give them this opportunity to know that there is no brain drain in developing countries. Scientists are not there. Why? Because developed countries take advantage of developing countries. They take the learned people and use them for brain drain. Honestly, I will never join your side. Thank you.
Nakuru School, you have 1 minute as well.
We are not degrading developing countries. In fact, I love my country so much, and I know that it is developing. Years to come, I wish to be the president of my country, Kenya. Because I love my country so much. I will do just anything for my country to develop. I will do just anything to have my country industrialized. But policies is not anything I'm willing to do. Majority have their way, you said, but minority have their say. We should do what will make us become the best. Well, I would like to turn your minds to my point of view and your hearts to my passion. If I have not turned your hearts to my point of view, then you have to raise your standards. Thank you.
Moi Forces Festival. Lucy, I remember this whole thing about the pop-up and debt will stop when. That was a question that was a statement that you throw it in. It was fair, but you give the example of China sat and decided to implement their own policies. I agree. But all you needed to do is to give source citation. Tell us, according to this, China sat and decided on these policies. That would have helped you a lot. Hadkano, very good start for a third speaker. I mean, you come over and you start off very well, your team. Good tackling of questions as well. For role playing, I think you did very well. Nakuru girls, Susan Wamboy, I think for me you stand out and there's no definite thing about it. You understand your role as a debater and congratulations for that. You know, you were teaching me so many things, the HDIs, the FDIs, and it was very amazing for you to define those kind of things. And I think you understood the motion very well. Policies require cash. Where shall this cash get from? And I think you are trying to allude to the team here that, listen, we must get this money. And we don't get this money, we must borrow this money. Then we shall fall into debt. Juma, cross-examination, excellent. That was a very good cross-examination, especially with the Ujamaa example. And you talked of how it failed. That was very good. However, you need to work on something. That is your style and presentation, so that at least you can get the attention as you have. Atwala, mastery of language, excellent. When you came to the microphone, I mean, you drew the attention. That was powerful. Good examples. However, when you started talking about Libya, I was wondering, according to who, all right? Source citation is very important. You also give the example of, we do not, you said some statements. For example, you said, we do not have transport infrastructure. You know, somebody else from another field will tell you, no, we have. Look at the roads that we're developing and everything else. Generally, I want to congratulate both of you for what you have done and all the best. Let's wait for the results.
Nakuru girls, the judges awarded you 71.5%. Please give them a round of applause. Thank you. Moi Forces Academy, the judges awarded you 67%, making Nakuru girls the winners.
All right. We'd like to appreciate the two teams on stage and our very active audience, and also our viewers back home. Thank you for watching. Keep it locked on KBC Channel 1. A shout out to our sponsors, Safaricom Blaze, and I've been your host, Austin Nyombok.
I am Mariam Bishar. Thank you for watching.
The Great Debaters Contest is powered by Blaze, by Safaricom, the Youth Network.